I'm the General of Mason Transit Authority and also your board secretary.
Thank you. Welcome. David Forte.
David Fort, Kitsap County.
Thank you. Ed Stern. All right. Ed's here, but maybe is busy for a minute. I see Joe from WashDOT. Are you our new WashDOT representative?
Not a new WashDOT representative, just filling in for George Mazer, but I'm Joe Kaladich, Multimodal Planning, Olympic Region.
Thank you. Let's see here. John Clausen.
Good morning. I'm John Clausen. I'm the Executive Director here at Kitsap Transit.
I see Michael Bateman from City of Paulsbo as well.
Yeah, good morning. Michael Bateman, City Paulsbo Engineering, Board Alternate.
And Navarra from City Port Angeles, it looks like.
Well, I am here from the city of Port Angeles, and also on the board of Column Transit.
Welcome. Nicole Gauthier.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Gauthier. I'm the General Manager of Jefferson Transit Authority. Thank you.
Welcome. I see Randy Netherland.
Good morning, everybody. I'm feeling awful old today on this organization. John, I remember you from the beginning. I've been here for so long now. I'm Mason County Commissioner and realizing there's only a few from the old days.
Change is hard, isn't it? All right. Let's see. Rachel Anderson from Squim.
Hi there, Mayor of Squim, Washington, Rachel Anderson. I also happen to be on the Clallam Transit Board like Navarra.
Welcome. Susan Matthews.
Hi, I'm Susan Matthews, the Public Works Assistant Director in Transportation and Transit for Lower Ella Clammon Tribe.
Thank you. I see Vicki Grover.
Good morning, Vicki Grover with the City of Bremerton, Project Manager.
Welcome. Will from Clallam County.
Morning, Will from Clallam County. I'm the TAC representative for Clallam County, so I suppose today I'm kind of attending as a guest.
Well, thanks for coming anyway. Fred Obie.
Port Townsend City Council and also Jefferson Transit.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I see Oren from Kitsap County.
Yes, good morning. Oren Root, Kitsap County Commissioner, and also on the board of Kitsap Transit.
Thank you for joining us. All right. Now, names are jumping around, so if there's anybody that I didn't call on yet, feel free to jump in and introduce yourself. I don't know if I got to Tim Hayes.
So Mike Ed Stern, Mayor Paulsbo, filling in again for a retiring City Councilman Gary McVeigh, who you barely got to know, right? And so until we can get another designated transportation, I'll be filling in with Michael Bateman. So I'm making a third repeat at PRTPO.
Well, it's always good to have you, Ed. Thank you.
You, Mike.
Anyone else that we missed?
Sure, Judy Scott, Port of Allen Commissioner, also on the board for Mason Transit Authority. And I'm old too. Welcome.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else?
Yeah, Tim Hayes here with the City of Port Angeles, but I don't know if Councilwoman Navarra is our actual official executive board representative from the City of Port Angeles now. I'm not sure if I need to be here if that has taken place.
Well, you're welcome to sit through a meeting, but I'm not sure.
You're welcome to sit in the meeting. I believe that we don't have you marked as an alternative. However, can you hear me?
Sorry.
However, if you want to sit in, that's totally fine. But I don't believe you have been able to vote on anything for today. So
no, as long as we've got a representative, I will sit this one out. So thank y'all very much.
See you
and my
next
guess
month.
is you have a pretty good to-do list anyway. So thanks, Tim.
Definitely. Thanks, y'all.
All right. So if there's anybody that I missed, feel free to jump in. But I think we got to everyone. All right. So we are going to move on with the approval of our agenda. We have an agenda. Any modifications or changes that we need to make? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
This is Amy Asher. I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve our agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. That moves us to our consent calendar. So our consent calendar has, well, I said the approval of the agenda, so sorry about that. The approval of the minutes from our last meeting and the third quarter invoice approval for 2026. Anything that we need to say about that, Amna, before we vote?
I don't have anything to add. It's in the, I included into the packet. Our budget is fine where we are right now. I believe Ed was mentioning that it's a little bit, we have a little bit wiggle room, right now financially.
Yeah, it's
Great.
a little
So
bit
if we look-
unusual. So, but maybe with this transition from contract staff to in-house staff, there may have been a little bit of a savings there. We'll see how it pencils out, but right now we're under 50% midway
Well,
by
that's welcome news.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to accept our consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. John
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve our consent calendar. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And our consent calendar is approved. Thank you. All right, so that moves us to our fiscal year 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program Adoption, which is attachment C in our agenda. Amna, do you want to take this one?
Okay. So previously we talked to you guys about UPWP having to be updated. So with at the middle of the biennium, we always will review UPWP and make sure that it's up to date and includes everyone included. We discussed 2 items to be added, but we scratched one, and so the only thing we're going to adopt for this one is the addition of the ADA consultant, because we have to review all of our documents and make sure it's ADA compliable by, I think, 2027 or 8.
2028. Yep.
8. And we added that project onto our project list, and that's the only difference we have on there. In the packet, you also see that it's marked in red as well. Besides that, there's nothing we have added on to the UPWP, and we're looking for it to be adopted today, and signed after the meeting.
Well, my guess is many of us that work at counties or cities or public agencies are pretty familiar with those ADA requirements, as they've probably been driving our clerks crazy. For counties, I think adoption point is 2027. So at least we have an extra year here at PRTPO to accommodate that. Any discussion or questions on this one? Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to approve this change to our UPWP.
Wendy. So you're muted.
The TAC also saw the clarity in that recommendation, and I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion
Aye.
passes. All right, that was quick. We had a good 15 minutes to set aside for that discussion, but we certainly didn't need it. So this moves us to our item 3, which is our Human Services Transportation update. And I will turn this over to staff as well.
Thank you, Chair French. So Thera Black, our consultant that we hired to update our human services transportation plan, is not available today. So I'm going to give a brief update for this plan. For those of you that may want to have some background, the Human Services Transportation Plan is generally updated every 4 years. It's a federal requirement to the state of Washington or to other designated grantees of federal funds. PRTPO not being a designated grantee of federal funds, but the way the state of Washington administers their HSTPs, they have the regional transportation planning organizations create HSTPs, and they kind of sum it up into one big sort of thing that they give to the feds. So this is a way to have not local control, but a local lens on the needs rather than the state coming down and thinking they know what all the local needs are. They push it down to the RTPOs. And we get some background noise from. Oh, there we go. Okay, thanks, Wendy. Let me get my train of thought back. So this is a requirement that we do, but it's more than just a requirement. It's kind of a litmus test of what the needs are in our four-county region for human services transportation. That includes many nonprofit organizations that provide critical links to get clients to and from medical appointments or other day programs, et cetera. It helps fund transit operations, especially in rural areas, by providing vehicles and operational dollars. A lot of the transit service that we see out there every day in our rural areas is funded through human services transportation funding, which comes from the state. And what happens is after this plan is completed sometime this fall, that there's a list of projects, requests essentially that come out of the plan that the state will then fund many of those projects to help keep those services, those critical services going, and if needed, establish new services to meet new demands. So an update on the actual planning work that's going on. Thera and staff here, we're going to be meeting with stakeholders next month in each of the counties. So we're looking forward to kind of unearthing any changes that have occurred since the last plan. Some of the stuff that we're hearing is that the cost of transportation is becoming a major barrier for people. And we're seeing more folks kind of try to discover what's available to them to help them get to and from their appointments, that kind of thing. So that's a bit of a change from the last plan. Transportation costs weren't as big of a deal. So right now that's kind of bubbling up to the surface. And then also coordination. Another item that we're looking at is coordination or communication between public transit providers and those human services organizations. So we're going to be focusing on that as well. We are working with the Association of Washington Cities GIS consultant, Flow Analytics. And so they're going to be updating the website for us, that story map that was completed last time. Many of the data links fell through. So we are updating those and trying to make them a little more strong going forward so they don't fall through. There was something in the back end of the program that didn't quite work out. So we're attempting to fix that right now. It's looking pretty good. We have some new census data from the American Community Survey, which is sort of done between the 10-year decennial census. They do periodic updates based on complex estimation formulas about what's going on. And so we're going to update a lot of those demographic tables in that program. What else do I have? That's really where we're at. We hope to bring a draft plan to you, I believe, in August at your August meeting. And then, get your feedback and public feedback, make adjustments, and then bring it back to your October meeting for adoption, and then submit it to the state by the December deadline. We're actually looking at a late November submittal to the state, in which we'll have a whole host of projects, and the TAC will rank those projects, and then at your December board meeting, you'll kind of put a stamp, hopefully, on those projects, unless you want to make changes. And that way the state will have a menu on which to fund, which projects to fund going forward for the next 4 years, and hopefully keep those critical transportation links intact in our four-county region. Please keep in note that keep in mind for Kitsap County, they also participate in the Puget Sound Regional Council process, their human services transportation plan. Being a larger area over in King, Snohomish, and Pierce County, it is a bigger effort. So Kitsap kind of plays in both fields. And lately, Kitsap has not necessarily been applying for funding, but it doesn't mean that human services transportation organizations can't. And so we do expect to get some applications in, and they'll be treated just the same. And the TAC will review them similar to other projects and service requests in the other 3 counties of the region. So that's where we stand with HSTP. And if you have any questions or concerns, I'm here to answer them now or in the future.
And it sounds like we have plenty of time baked into this process so that if any of this does get off track, we even have an extra month before we have to deliver to the state.
Yes, that was by design. Yes.
Yeah, that's smart. Wendy, question.
Mute.
When you were going through the list of how we're going to get to October, did there include like a general public comment period for the final draft plan?
I believe there is after the August meeting when the draft is released, similar to the RTIP timeline in the September timeframe is when we're planning for the general public comments.
Okay. And when you mention stakeholders, those are the stakeholders that Thera is interviewing. Do you think that we should suggest other stakeholders in case she doesn't have
please.
everyone that's from last year? Last time around?
Absolutely. And to keep in mind, we did take, I think it was at the April in-person meeting, there was recommendations to include the school districts. And so we have included the school districts in there. That is a new thing. We haven't done that in the past. So that, that's going to be kind of a new way to kind of deal with things because they look at transportation differently, but we definitely wanted to go ahead and include them at the direction of the board and the TAC.
Yeah, and that will be very interesting as it ensued lots of conversation. I was actually, of course, thinking of additional ones. And the one that came to mind when you were making your presentation is the kerfuffle with that Thurston County human services provider that wasn't really in our plan. And I wonder how we bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe there has a methodology there. It's not coming to the top of my head. So it's kind of a last minute thing. Thera is not feeling well, so please keep her in your thoughts. But we're well aware. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just send her a direct email then. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll CC you.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, thank you for that update in Thera's stead. We wish her a quick, speedy recovery. And I know that if she could have been here, she would have. She likes our group, I think. So
yeah, she was feeling really bad about it. And it's like, no, you're sick. Take care of yourself.
I think she's also earned, a pass on,
yeah, to say the least.
To say the least.
Yeah. And we've got capable people. So
exactly.
That's great.
That's great. All right, so moving on to our transportation alternative. This is attachment D in our agenda. And this is
one, sorry, I won't interrupt. There's one part too, and remember we wanted to mention if we wanted to seek funding for that addition, that extra project.
Oh, for the UPWP?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can bring that up.
Okay.
Thanks, Amna. So on the previous item with the UPWP, when you adopted that, the change to include the update of our website and associated documents to meet ADA standards, that's going to cost money, right? There are firms out there that specialize in querying and then providing feedback and then methods to actually adjust those documents. And one of the things that WashDOT Tribal and Regional Planning has informed us of is that starting next month, they're going to have $40,000 available statewide for the rural RTPOs to kind of take a chomp at. And we'd like to ask you as the board, if you want to, for those unfunded needs, if you want to tackle that ADA website update with that additional funding. And that would allow you to go ahead and hire the company to go in and really get this done pretty quickly in time for the 2028 deadline. So staff, that our suggestion is to go ahead and apply. Once that funding, I'll get an email from Gabe at WashDOT, and sort of the first one that gets out there gets the fish. And so we would like to do that ADA work as soon as possible, but I need your approval to, unless you have another project on the list that y'all want to seek money for.
Any questions or thoughts on that idea? It certainly makes sense to me. The money, the money's on the table. Might as well go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, given the other projects that are on the list, and if it's only 40,000 that's available to the entire state, that seems like a great low-hanging fruit and something that has to be done anyways. So get your project, get it together and go get the money. I approve it.
Yeah,
In some of the comparable sort of RTPOs, it's cost them about $8,000 to $10,000, just to let you know.
Yeah, and I will just say, from my county perspective, as we've been struggling through this, the deadline got changed for us, but you want to getting it done early is a really good idea. You don't want to be up against that deadline, even though it's very far away. You also don't know what you don't know yet about these requirements. And so getting someone on board to learn some stuff about as an organization of, when we put stuff on the website, what's the form we need to use? What's the, so that it's accessible. You want to learn that stuff early, because that's our lesson learned from Clallam County's perspective, at least.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So are you asking for a motion to approve kind of that concept that to go after that funding and approve that project?
That would be helpful, Chair.
I didn't state that very well, so it's hard to say so moved.
Maybe restate and then we can.
But I think what you're looking for is a motion to approve, to direct staff to go after that funding that's available and achieve that project that's in our UPWP around ADA accessibility requirements. Is that a fair statement? Okay.
Yes. I so move to direct staff to go after unfunded UPWP project letter I with the available funding at WashDOT that will advance the ADA compliance.
This is Amy Ashaw, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think this one makes a lot of sense, and so I'm not expecting a bunch of heated talk about it. All right, so it's been moved and seconded to direct staff to go after that funding and get that project done for the ADA requirements. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much. And thanks for remembering that and bringing it up, Amna.
Thanks, Amna.
Yeah, great catch. All right, now if we're ready to move on to the item 4 on our agenda, which is the transportation alternative attachment D. And this is something that looks like the TAC reviewed and is bringing us a recommendation for a specific project. So who wants to take this one first?
I think I've got this one. We gave a briefing to the executive board, although not quite as much detail back at the April meeting. So the Transportation Alternatives Program, that's federal funding through the Federal Highway Administration that is handed to the states, and then the states all have their own processes for handing out. A little piece of that federal highway funding is called Transportation Alternatives, and it's for non-motorized, essentially, transportation, non-single occupant vehicle transportation services, such as bike paths, walkways, safe routes to school, etc. And the state, hands out funding every year. Typically, since the IIJA, Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, was passed, that's the federal transportation legislation that we're funded under right now nationwide. The PRTPO region, the 3-county region, is in this case, Kitsap County participates through PSRC. So I'm talking Clallam, Jefferson, and Mason counties, receives a little over $300,000 a year under IIJA. And right now we have about 1.38 million sort of in the bank for projects. And so typically we come to the PRTPO board and TAC every 4 years with a call of projects. The last call for projects was in 2024. We recommended 4 projects to be funded, And those projects were in Jefferson County, City of Port Townsend, City of Port Angeles, in the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. That's found on PDF page 52 of your packet. And two of those projects, due to budgetary inflationary issues that are going on right now, which is just rampant, the inflation that's occurring, Jefferson County and Jamestown S'Klallam tribe have asked for additional funding to help complete their projects in a timely manner. So of that 1.38 million, Jefferson County is asking for an additional 255,000 to complete the state route, Rhodey Drive bike pedestrian improvements projects on the north side. And the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe is asking for an additional $335,000 for the Carlsberg Crossing section of the Olympic to Discovery Trail. We have met with WashDOT local programs who administers these dollars, and they are more than happy, if you so choose, to approve the changes in terms of total dollar amount on these projects. More than happy to support that. WashDOT is under pressure constantly from the federal government to deliver projects, because if they don't deliver them by the end of the or obligate the projects essentially by the end of the federal fiscal year, every year they're in a race to not give money back to the pot in Washington, D.C. So if you do choose to approve this change, it helps not only the state and the project sponsors deliver the money, but it keeps the money in Washington rather than, going to a pool or going over to the Seattle side or another rural RTPO. So it's all about getting a project built and delivered. And so there's two memos in there, one from Jefferson County and one from Jamestown S'Klallam. Both members of those organizations presented this to the TAC last month, and we had a good discussion, and the TAC unanimously recommends to you, the board, to go ahead and approve this. If you do approve it, I will go ahead and get these projects updated in the State Transportation Improvement Program, in which case then they can move forward to be obligated in the next STIP amendment, hopefully in July or August at the latest. And then they can, move forward with getting their projects advertised and built and moving forward in a timely manner and meeting those delivery goals. That's where we stand.
All right. Any questions or comments?
I do have one more thing. And so by doing this, we take this off that 1.38 million that we have in the bank. But historically, every year we've been getting about 330,000, sometimes 350,000. It varies a little bit based on the allocation from Congress. Keep in mind the IIJA does expire on September 30th. Historically, the federal government has kind of punted on transportation reauthorization for a year or two, and they do continuing resolutions to fund the transportation program. So I fully expect that to happen again. There hasn't been a ton of traction in DC with a new transportation authorization bill. As it gets closer, things get done eventually, and I don't know what the new acronym will be, but we'll see what it will be. So just some background. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions, discussion? All right. So we had a unanimous recommendation from the TAC to approve the projects that were discussed and to provide that funding through the Transportation Alternatives Program, right? Is that the right way to say it?
Yes. And we have a resolution in there, I believe.
Thank you. Yes, there was. I did see that.
Okay.
The resolution that I created is only for the UPWP. There's not one in the packet that's around a TA.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
I'll have to draft that one up in order for us to get it signed. However, it would be the same as the previous what you have done before. So
yeah, we can, from a staff perspective, we can live without a resolution. It's okay because the STIP process is essentially the public process with this.
And so we would amend that STIP in the future.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So if there's no discussion or questions about this, like I said, we have a unanimous recommendation from the TAC to approve this request and provide the funding changes to those two projects that were requested through the Transportation Alternatives Program. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve this recommendation from the TAC and provide the funding to those two projects through the Transportation Alternatives Program. Any discussion? I'm always glad that the TAC reviews these in detail. Both seem pretty reasonable requests, so I'm not surprised that these sailed through with a unanimous recommendation. So thank you to those two jurisdictions for making reasonable requests, and thank you to the TAC for reviewing them. Any other discussion? All right, there's motion and a second to approve this request. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
May I ask who's second?
Who was the second on that? I forgot.
Navarra.
Navarra, thank you. All right. Well, we're way ahead of schedule, but I do see the Long Live the Kings folks in the participant list. So I think that's what's next on our agenda, which is a presentation from Long Live the Kings. Some of us have been involved in this. Oh, go ahead, Wendy. Was there a question?
Commissioner Mike, I just wanted to jump in there with my raised hand to say thank you to this executive board for making a real big difference in supporting this project in Carlsberg. And if you did have 1 minute, have a concept of what's going on with this project, if you want to do that, or else I can just distribute pictures by email.
Yeah, I would love for you to give just a little quick update on it if you want. Yeah. We do have time in our agenda, actually.
Yeah,
so
I saw
let's
the
use it.
time that we've been so. Yeah.
I think you're breaking up a little bit, Wendy, just to let you know.
It's not going to take very long. Do you share the screen with me? There we go. I'm just going to take charge here.
You may want to turn off your video, Lindy, in order for your audio to work a little bit better.
Might have been the screen share that's taken up all the bandwidth
All right.
too. We'll see. We'll
I'm
find out
sharing
in
a
minute.
screen that has people going around a curve. Can you see
We
that?
do not.
Not yet.
Maybe my internet's too slow and all.
Ooh.
I think it's not feasible, so let's
Okay.
Feel free to send it to me. I can send out the presentation or an email out to everyone if you want to instead.
Yeah, I think sending those pictures out in email is a great idea. And just for everyone, this was an issue where we have a road in an area that's really urbanizing and developing, and a trail crossing that wasn't perpendicular. And this was something that Jamestown S'Klallam Tribe kind of put their hand in the air and said, "Hey, we can maybe make a difference." And they created this project, and they've been kind of taking the lead on it. So I hope that we're able to see kind of that project as Wendy sends out some pictures. Now I'm wondering if I'm freezing.
No, you're clear. Perfect.
Okay, good. All right. So sorry for the technical difficulties, but hopefully she can send those pictures out. It's a really impactful project, and we have a Trails Advisory Committee at Clallam County, and we're really excited about it because it is a real safety issue, and Jamestown Squamish Tribe really, picked that up, did all the design work, and is delivering this project in a way that I think is going to be very positive for that region. So we're really appreciative to them and appreciative to the executive committee for supporting the project. All right, so we'll move on to our Long Live the Kings presentation. This is a group that is doing some really unique envisioning of what the Hood Canal Bridge might look like in the future. Some of us have been involved, and I think that we might have even had them at one of our meetings previously. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited to have Shara here, and I'll turn it over to the Long Live the Kings team.
Wonderful. Can you hear me?
We
Am I
can.
coming through? Great. We've had a history of in our office not having great internet either, so hopefully this will all work, and I will share my screen and hopefully share the correct screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, it's coming up.
Great. Well, thank you so much. My name is Shara Ainsley, and I'm an Associate Director of Projects at Long Live the Kings. And I'm meeting with you all today because I had reached out to Loretta Swanson, the Director of Mason County Public Works, and she had suggested that I present to this group as part of ongoing outreach around this effort that we've been working on. And in particular, some work that we've been doing on looking at the community needs around the Hood Canal Bridge. And just because of the timing, I had ended up presenting to the November TAC meeting, but wasn't able to meet with you all until now. And some of you are very involved in this, and some of you may not be familiar with it. So I apologize to, in particular, Mike and Wendy have probably seen this presentation a dozen times now. So I apologize on that front. But I will just give you a kind of brief history of this. And just to set the stage, I am not a transportation person. I work with a nonprofit that's Seattle-based, and we've been dedicating over 40 years to deliver on our mission of restoring wild salmon and steelhead and supporting sustainable fishing in the Pacific Northwest. And we operate 2 research hatcheries as part of our work, and one of them is in Lilliwaup on the Hood Canal. And we also are known for facilitating big multi-stakeholder salmon recovery projects. And a lot of them are starting to interface with infrastructure projects. And so that's been a really interesting transition in our work. We're working with the Nisqually tribe on the I-5 corridor around the Nisqually estuary. And we've been working for the last decade on the Hood Canal Bridge. So an interesting new interface for us, or it's been about 10 years now, but still we're a 40-year-long organization. So, so today I'll just I think I have a 12-minute presentation, just a bit of background, and then I'll talk about the current phase that we're working on. And that includes a community needs study and a conceptual kind of re-envisioning process. And you
And
all,
Shara,
oh yeah.
we're way ahead of schedule in our meeting, so don't feel like you have to rush through anything.
Okay. Yeah. And if anybody has any questions, I think I can tell, I think it'll like pop. I can see the first few boxes. So I think if you have any questions, please stop me. Yeah. And so usually I have to tell people about the Hood Canal Bridge. You all are very familiar with the bridge, but from a fish perspective, if you're a 6-inch long fish or smaller, what you're seeing underwater is the top 15 feet of the water is basically cement pontoons that are all attached together. And so it's basically a solid cement wall for 15 feet down and almost 85% of the width of the canal, depending on the tides. And so it is a pretty imposing structure for outmigrating fish. And we had just always assumed, I think, that people had just assumed the fish could swim under it. But it turns out that about a decade ago, Megan Moore with NOAA and her colleagues started tracking young steelhead going out of the Hood Canal, and they found that they were getting held up and going missing on the Hood Canal Bridge. And more recent work has showed that up to 50% in some years of the young steelhead that make it to the bridge are lost at the bridge. And this is an ESA listed species. It's our state fish. And this is very concerning. And to put it into perspective, that's about the loss that you see for young steelhead throughout the whole Snake River and Columbia River dam system. So if you followed a young steelhead throughout the whole dam system, that's about the same loss. And we're seeing it right here at the bridge. And so that was really concerning. And this is a little diagram of an actual track of a young steelhead. And if you imagine it like a GPS on a car, this is a couple days worth of driving for the steelhead. So you can see it going back and forth for a couple days trying to find the way around the bridge. And eventually this young steelhead did make it around the bridge, but they don't all make it. And so in 2015, and oh, yeah, question?
Hi, Shahara. How are you? Oren Root. Good to
Hi.
see you. I'm curious, what's causing the death of the salmon? Is it predators, or because it seemed like they're getting trapped right there? Is it the predators that are hunting them?
Yeah, I can I have that in 2 slides.
Okay,
But
perfect.
I will get to that, and then I'm happy to clarify more because this is a decade worth of work that I'm trying to cram into 10 minutes. So
No, gotcha. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
no worries. So because of this initial work about 10 years ago, the NOAA came to us. They came to the Port Campbell Musqueam tribe, who was doing some work on salmon at the bridge, and Long Live the Kings brought together this group of state, local, federal, and tribal governments and nonprofit organizations to look at what was happening at the bridge. And they formed a management committee, which is mostly policy level folks who are providing input on the overall assessment. But then they formed a subgroup that's called the assessment team, and that's all the technical experts, the researchers that are doing the studies on the ground. And then recently we've formed another subgroup, which is called the project steering team. And I'll talk a bit more about that later, but both Mike and Wendy are on that and have been instrumental in helping us through this process. So the problem, you got it right. It's a kind of a multi-factor problem. So these fish are 6 inches long. They're very small or smaller. Salmon, steelhead are 6 inches. Salmon are even smaller, a couple inches. And so they're swimming out in the top surface water, and the bridge is basically a giant wall for them. And so they swim back and forth trying to find a way around. And in the process, they encounter these really significant eddies that form. I don't know if you've ever noticed crossing the Hood Canal Bridge, but there's these cross pontoons right before, it adds some lift right before the transition to shore on either side. And those cross pontoons cause these eddies that collect a lot of trash and a lot of logs and things like that. But they also really disorient young fish that are migrating out. And so often they'll get turned around and they'll just go right back when they're almost to safe passage, they turn around. And the seals have learned this, and they can use this area to corral fish. But basically there are seals hunting these fish up and down the bridge. There's likely other predators, but the work really found that a lot of the predation is coming from seals. And then lights at night give seals the advantage. So during the phase 1 work, basically, there was lights on the bridge all the time. And so seals, they're visual hunters. They can hunt at night when they normally wouldn't be able to. So that was the main problem, is the combo of the delay caused by the physical presence of the bridge and then the presence of these seals. Seals, if you're not familiar, they're protected under the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which started in the 1970s, and their populations have grown exponentially since then. And there's a really big seal population in the Hood Canal. And so this problem of seal predation has been growing. Did that cover the question that you had or? Okay, great. So we've been considering solutions. So the phase 1 was really identifying the problem, and that's the work that I just showed you. And then after that, the Hood Canal Bridge assessment team, they recommended testing some near-term solutions to try to help fish around the bridge and increase survival past the bridge. And I won't be talking about those today because of time, but they also concluded that we can only do so much to mitigate the bridge impact. At the end of the day, the bridge, because of the way it's built, will cause delays for salmon and steelhead. And so much work has been put into recovering the salmon and steelhead populations in Hood Canal. It's really a shame to have this bridge be such a barrier at the mouth of the canal. So the team has concluded that long-term, the best solution would be a bridge that doesn't cause a barrier to the surface water and the fish. And this is coming from the perspective that all bridges have a lifespan. And so eventually a bridge will need to be rebuilt in this area, right? And so we want to be ready for that moment. And in particular, the Hood Canal Bridge has a lot of costs associated with it. It is a unique bridge in the sense that it's a floating bridge, and I think it's one of only 13 in the world, if I'm correct. We have a lot in Washington State. It's a floating bridge. It's in a marine and tidal environment, so it's different from I-90 and 520, and it's has a draw span. And so because of that, there's really high maintenance and operations costs. And so we want to be ready for a future bridge redesign and think of ways that it could benefit fish, but also maybe benefit the communities, because we recognize that a bridge would not be rebuilt if it weren't also to benefit the communities. So right now, the current project seeks to do two things: and significantly increase survival past the current bridge for salmon and steelhead. And again, that's something I won't focus on today. But the second part is to identify whether a redesigned bridge could eliminate the impacts to salmon and steelhead, to the surface waters and the area around the bridge, but also better serve the people and the communities nearby. And so to achieve the second goal, the Port Gamble Sklallam Tribe secured funding from NOAA Fish Passage grants to develop a conceptual design for a possible new bridge. And this is very conceptual. We're talking, less than 5%. Everybody's been putting different percentages, maybe 1%, very high level concept here. And the idea is to do two things. The first is to assess the community needs around a new bridge. And that work we brought on HDR, and they completed a study last fall that I will talk about. And then the second aspect, which is ongoing right now, is to give that information to a bridge engineer firm. And we brought on COE, and they are reimagining how there could be a bridge across the canal that could better serve people and the communities, as well as the fish and the estuary or the environment. And I mentioned a steering team. So we created, just for this short-term project, a project steering team. Mike and Wendy are both on it. It has been instrumental. It's functionally a subgroup of the management committee, but it's been a great group of engaged folks that have really helped me as a fish person navigate this aspect of the project. And again, what do we mean by conceptual? A lot of people have asked that, and it can be interpreted many different ways. But broadly, what we're trying to find is to identify the needs of the community, understand the feasibility of whether a new or modified bridge could address both community needs as identified by the study, as well as the fish needs as identified by the phase one of the assessment. And then provide an initial sketch of what would a time frame be like? What are the funding needs that would be needed for that design? And I just try to be very clear with folks when I talk to them that what we are not doing is taking any steps towards bridge design or construction, right? That is still something that WashDOT will be looking at. How am I doing on time? I realized I didn't start my timer and just launched
We have
it.
not yet reached the point in our agenda where you are supposed to start.
All right. I won't keep you all day, but I won't talk too quickly. So HDR came on and designed a community needs study, and our staff worked with HDR staff. We held events throughout the community. I went to 3 farmers markets, sat on the ferries between Kingston and Edmonds and talked to people, went to libraries and community rooms, and had a webinar. We also met with some community-based organizations listed here, as well as our partners on the management committee. So all the different partners that are participating in this. That includes 5 state agencies, 2 federal agencies, and 3 counties that we met with. And then we met with 4 area tribes that have usual and custom fishing grounds within the Hood Canal. And I won't give detailed information if any of you are interested. I do have the HDR's final report, which I can share, but I'll give you some high-level feedback, all of which will not surprise you. So the outreach campaign had an unbranded identity that HDR came up with around a slogan, "Let's talk about a better bridge." And the idea was really just to get people talking, right? This is very early stage conversations and kind of a grassroots effort. And so we used these imagery to try to encourage people to take an online survey. And for that online survey, we got, it was open for about a month, and we got 614 responses. It was an online survey that was voluntarily taken. We weren't reaching out to people and calling them. And so you'll see that most of the respondents were from the Olympic Peninsula and used the bridge. So you're capturing the bridge user perspective and not just the general public. But most use the bridge a few times a week for personal reasons, appointments, or shopping. Only 7% reported using it for commuting. This is where you won't be surprised. The top concerns were traffic delays due to opening and unannounced openings. So that was really what people cared about. We were interested to know that 45% were aware of the impacts of the bridge on fish. That might be in part because we were handing things out and talking to people, so that may have been why. But 32% were concerned about those impacts. And then in terms of what was important and very important for a potential new bridge design, again, it's fewer bridge openings or no bridge openings. And then keeping the bridge roughly in the same location and same size to reduce impacts of construction. So that was what we heard from the survey. But we also held these listening sessions with folks in the community and organizations, and some of you were involved in those listening sessions as well. And again, this will probably all sound very familiar to you. You won't be surprised, but the bridge is really viewed as a lifeline for folks on the Olympic Peninsula. And in particular, in our conversations with tribal natural resource departments, there was concerns, great concerns about the impact on salmon and salmon fisheries. But also in our conversations with tribal members or with tribal staff, the tribal members rely on the bridge, many of them for access to culturally important areas and for commerce and emergency services. And in all of our conversations, openings are inconvenient and they're hard to plan around. And there's, legitimate concerns around openings, delaying emergency services or transit that people brought up. And we heard that frequently. We also frequently heard a desire to see a more bike-friendly and pedestrian-friendly bridge. And in our conversations with the state and federal agencies, there was a lot of nexes for permitting for construction, right? And so that's not surprising either that any large infrastructure project would have a vast amount of permitting to work through. In our conversation with WashDOT, we did discuss that the bridge has high operations, maintenance, and preservation costs. And so that's something that I think a lot of folks don't recognize, is that there's already a lot spent on the bridge, and I'm sure you all recognize that, but I think the general public doesn't realize that. There is upcoming work on the bridge in the next few years. And so that will be, I think, more front of mind for folks. And then in our social media comments in particular, we heard a lot of concerns expressed about a new infrastructure construction process that may include tolls, taxes, things like that. And so that is also top of mind for folks. And so for the conceptual redesign process, we brought in a group of bridge engineers from COE. COE is headquartered in Denmark, but they have a North America division and a Seattle office. And they've been really instrumental in some very large bridge projects in recent years. So they built a world record-breaking bridge in Turkey that's on the bottom left, and then they worked on the Mersey Gateway Design joint venture over the River Mersey in UK. And that is a good example because they were looking to maximize local community user benefits while minimizing environmental impacts on the estuary, on a very impacted estuary. So, and you can see here that cable stay bridge. So just a summary of what we're asking of COE. Again, very high level visual representation of a potential bridge that could address community needs and fish needs. And then a detailed description of the design limitations, right? We're asking them to think creatively, but with very limited data, right? They could only work with the data that WashDOT had on the bridge, on the substrate. They're not going out and collecting any new data. And so they're going to tell us what kinds of assumptions they're making and what kind of data would need to be collected in order to understand those assumptions. They're going to provide a likely duration of time required for construction. A lot of this is informed by 520 and other bridge construction in the similar bridge construction, but we're looking on the order of 10 plus years if you include all of the permitting and design work and all of that. And then estimated costs and benefits of the fully realized design. And again, just reiterating that this is not intended to replace any of WashDOT's usual processes. Those would all need to progress as normal once the decision was made to do a new bridge design. But hopefully this will lead to a stepping stone that can expedite the process. And if anything, we're really just hoping to use this as a tool to have a conversation with the community about what the community would like to see so that when the time is right, we've already started having these conversations. So this is my last slide. This is just to reiterate that we have this community needs study and a conceptual redesign study, and those two technical reports are hundreds of pages long. Those will be condensed down into a public-facing report by Long Live the Kings, and that will be like ideally 10 pages long or less and have lots of photos and be glossy and very digestible. And so we're hoping to have that done by spring 2027. And then that will be a tool that we can use to engage the public and stakeholders, decision makers, governments. So thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions if we're still on time and go over anything if anything went too quickly.
Great presentation. Thank you. I will just say, as someone who was been involved in the stakeholder committee, it was really useful for you all to have the Navy and WashDOT on that committee because it really prevented us from going down some rabbit trails that really had some non-starters in them. So it was really, I thought you had a really good, broad, group of people that were involved. And you had obviously did a lot of public outreach. Any questions from anyone?
Oh, I just want to chime in and with what you just said, Commissioner Mike, because I think that your group brought in some very committed and interested elected officials from all areas on both sides of the bridge. And then when you had these, profound Coast Guard and Navy folks, I think they learned as well interacting with the group from within. So I think you've gelled this group that is very supportive as we go forward and prepare WashDOT for their commitment. I think you could probably also mention how long we think that the Hood Canal Bridge is going to be sufficient before maintenance swallows up the utility of the bridge, the maintenance cost and the budgeting that goes with that.
Yeah, I think that has really risen to the surface as the most important next steps is understanding that, because when we've asked WashDOT in the past, it's very hard for them to say, in part because the bridge the two halves are two different ages.
Yeah.
That when the west half sunk in the 70s, they had to replace it in the 80s, and so that half is now 40 something years old, and the other half was replaced in 2009, if I have my dates correct. And so we have this situation where the two halves are different. I also found out that some of the replacement, I think in 2009, actually used original pontoons. So some of the pontoons are still original pontoons from the 50s, maybe. So, or maybe from the 80s when they didn't need them. Anyways, the pontoons are all different ages. And so that's led, it's, I think, been because WashDOT hasn't had to put a number on that in the past, I think it's not something that they have off the top of their heads. So I think that that's something that would need to be a group effort as well, is to try to figure out what is the long-term maintenance. I think it's 81 million that they're going to spend on the is it the girder replacement process that's starting in a year or two. And so, you know, those add up. And it's also just with the draw span, you have to have a crew on there 24/7 or, you know, most days of the week to open the draw span. And so it's a really expensive bridge to operate.
And I think WashDOT's been pretty transparent that this is a unique piece of transportation infrastructure as is. You don't just order a bridge part for this bridge.
Yes.
It's kind of a one of a kind thing. And we've seen how that has, you know, been a challenge when there was some repair they did, I think last year or this year, and they couldn't close the bridge. You know, I think they do great work, but it is a unique piece of transportation infrastructure that produces unique challenges.
Definitely. Yeah, and what was interesting too in conversations with them throughout this process is that they haven't had to consider other designs until it was kind of this grassroots effort had us all thinking about that. Because their goals could be met through repairing the current bridge, right? And so their goals around keeping the bridge open and traffic moving as much as possible could be met by that to some extent, more affordably by repairing the current bridge. But I do think that there's that is the next step, is how much are we talking about putting into the current bridge, maintaining the current bridge, versus the cost of installing a bridge that doesn't have a draw span, for example.
Any questions or thoughts, especially from anybody who hasn't really been involved in the process, or if you have, we would love to hear your first reaction.
I'll chime in a little bit. Well, okay, so my first reaction was like, yes, save the fish, do it. That sounds great. And then I realized one of my really good friends for like almost 2 decades, consider him a little brother, really. He works on the bridge. And so, like, just thinking about, oh my God, like those guys are gonna have to find new jobs, right? And I mean, granted, right? I don't think it would be hard for those guys to find a new job, but it's also, there's like so many different things to take into consideration when we're talking about how a single bridge has been a part of generations, really, of people. And I feel like for those people, I mean, it's like a constant, right? With some people, it's just a ongoing uphill battle. People don't like change. But then you will find people who are excited about change and want things to work out for everybody as much as they can, right? Like it would be fantastic if every single decision we ever made had like only had advantages. That would be great. So yeah, those are just some from me.
Yeah, and that is very valid. And you know, my first thought is the people who work every day on the bridge, I've been out there a few dozen times over the past 4 years, and they are wonderful people, and I really appreciate they've helped us enormously and given us a lot of access to the bridge to do our research out there, and they are wonderful. And to be honest, the timelines we've been hearing from COE, 11 to 13 years before you have a new bridge. The current bridge would have to stay in place during that construction for, there may be a short window when the transition happens between bridges where they can't be, but that's been made clear, right? You can't have years of construction without a bridge there. So figuring out how to keep the current bridge going. So it's, I'm thinking of this as something that maybe in my career I will see something happen, but nothing will happen quickly. And so that's something that even if tomorrow a windfall should come and there is plentiful dollars for infrastructure throughout the state, and this was a priority and was addressed, it would still be a decade before we saw a new bridge. So I think that the reality is that there's even if it becomes a priority for everyone tomorrow, it's still a long process.
Yeah, WashDOT replaced a bridge in our region across the Elwha. That was like a 5-year at least process, and it was a pretty simple bridge. The Hood Canal is not simple.
No, yeah.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? All right. Well, maybe people just want some time to digest. And maybe at some point in the next few months, you might have a picture of a bridge. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, that's our goal, a potential bridge. And again, I would love to hear from any of you if you have a good sense of how we're trying to envision how to best communicate this to folks who live in the region in a way that they understand that this is intended as a conversation starter, intended for us to start thinking about this and moving forward together. But it is not here's a new bridge that's going to be built tomorrow. And, so I think that if you have any suggestions, I welcome feedback on that. It's going to be something that Long Live the Kings and our partners are thinking about over the next few months, is how to roll out this conversation in a way that's productive and doesn't just get, shut down right away.
So my feedback on that is I think you've done a great job at communicating to the general public and to those interest groups, those stakeholders that you identified, you talked about. I'm curious if one of your goals at Long Live the Kings is to create kind of a legislators briefing.
Yeah. We have, so my manager, our chief programs officer, also does our legislative outreach. And he had this project, he managed this project before I did. So he's very familiar with this project, Lucas Hall. And so we have 2 pagers that we use, and we need to constantly update those. But I think that we'll have to think about the rollout for this and how we can share that final kind of layperson report with legislators, how we can, what kind of materials we can use. So, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's their decision to say, WashDOT, you're building a new bridge, or WashDOT, we're going to maintain this bridge for this many more decades, right? So,
yeah.
Michael.
Hey, I just wanted to say I think you guys are doing a good job. It's good to recognize that projects like these are very long projects, and that a lot of us, I got some really good guidance early on in my career that a lot of the things you're going to do are setting up the pin so that some future generation can pull it off. We're now pulling off a project here in Poulsbo that started in 1992, the planning for it. So good to recognize that it's a long slog and set your goals accordingly. But you guys are doing a great job, and good presentation.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's definitely something that I have to remind myself. It's, coming from the fish perspective, every year we're seeing declines in the steelhead, and it's really concerning. And we're trying our best to figure out ways to keep them kind of on life support until we can figure out the bridge. But it's good to have that balance of reality, right? we can only do so much to speed up the process, and recognizing that these are just they're big efforts, and it takes a village. So
Oh yeah, but if everybody just gets discouraged, it's going to take forever and nobody does anything, it will absolutely never happen. So you're doing a great job.
well, thank you.
And recognizing that you've really done a good job, in my mind at least, of explaining all the co-benefits. You're coming, like you said, from the fish perspective. A lot of our community members are not. A lot of our community members really, when you tell them about the Hood Canal Bridge, they are very quick to talk about the openings. They're very quick to talk about the backups. Our Kitsap County partners here, they're the ones that get those long lines in their county on their roads. Those are extraordinarily disruptive, that can last an entire day. And so this is a project where I think, I had a community member years ago tell me, if you have a vision and you want to make it happen, you got to make it everyone's vision. And this, I think, is one of those kind of projects where there are so many different benefits that we could see if we can reimagine what this bridge could be. Might be a long time, might be a long process, but I think it can be everyone's vision.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's a really great point. And I want to credit Christine Rolfs for kind of encouraging us to do the community needs portion, because she, recognizes, and she's been engaged in this process from, at least 5 or 6 years since I've been here. And she recognized the vital importance of us making sure that our visions align, right? The vision of the community, the bridge is only going to change if the community needs it to change, right? And so understanding what the community needs and then seeing how that aligns with what the ecosystem needs. And so I'm really grateful for everyone's perspective and helping a fish biologist navigate all of this. So it's been really helpful.
Well, Shara's contact information is there on the screen. Feel free to reach out to her if you have questions after you have taken a minute to digest all this information. Thank you for the presentation, and I will see you, I think, next week at the meeting. Thank you very
so
much.
much. Take care.
Also, please share the presentation with me so I can post it online afterwards.
Share the presentation. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, we will move on in our agenda to our PRTP coordinator update. Amna, anything?
So for my section, I have some admin stuff here. I wanted to flag folks that I will send an email out, flagging folks to complete the risk management form. I just wanted to make sure that people have certain trainings. It's basically we need executive board to have their OPMA training, as well as some workplace harassment trainings done. It doesn't have to be done through us. It can be done through your own jurisdiction. So if you have done any kind of trainings with them, that does meet the requirement for us. So I'm sending you about that. In addition to that email, I'll ask you guys to double check the new members list. So I've updated the resource manual that has all of our information in our PRTPO Bible that we have. And it will include updated members list. And I just want you guys to flag me if there's anything wrong with your TAC or your board members that I have marked on that list. I have double checked like 3 times, but I have heard some changes in between as well. So I want to make sure I have the right contact on that list. So check the emails. I had an email that was incorrect, so that would be great. And lastly, the retreat was last time, guys. So some folks here were there. It was, I believe, it was a success. A lot of folks were very excited about being in person and seeing each other for networking, but also to kind of having more laid back conversation about our issues and challenges as staff members in the region and as officials as well. There is a possibility that we can have a retreat again in Jamestown's Squamish tribe again next April with the same monies that we used this time around via Wendy. So I was wanting to see if you guys were okay with us moving forward with planning that for April board meeting, which will be April 16th. Yay. Excitement?
Any feedback on that? I think it's a great idea. I think we always have a good time when we connect in person.
I agree. And thank you, Wendy, for facilitating the use of the building and for the funding to continue that.
Yes, and we want to see you there next year. Absolutely.
Okay, so I will move forward with that retreat for April 16, 2027. In addition to that, more retreat news. During the executive committee meeting, we did discuss the idea of continuing having an in-person meeting in general, with or without additional and fancy funding, to just have a time for us to meet in person sometime in the spring as well in the fall. With the idea of it being hosted here at Kitsap Transit. And maybe after that, you could have a lunch or something after whenever we're done is also a possibility. We're thinking about spring and fall, and particularly for fall, we're looking at the prospect of inviting legislators to show to present or to attend that meeting to help boost the in-person festivities. So we're looking to see if you guys are okay with us promoting maybe every April or maybe every it's not November, it would be October as in-person meeting days going forward.
And that fall or October in-person meeting, where would the likely location be?
It'll probably be here at Kitsap Transit.
Right, that's what I thought.
Harborside.
I think it's a great idea. You know, I'm on a couple other kind of more regional boards like this one where, you know, the board made a transition because of the COVID pandemic to really focus on virtual Zoom. We all got really good at those Zoom meetings. But there's so much value in getting together and being in person, creating those relationships. And there's just a little something unique about, you know, having an in-person meeting. So I think it's a good idea to, you know, I think twice a year is a great cadence for that. Michael?
Oh, I was just going to say, if it would help any, it would shorten a little bit of distance. City of Paulsbo would be happy to host as well. We've got a pretty decent council chambers we could host in here. I don't know if that'd make a difference for folks.
I think that would, especially the
We could
people coming
alternate
from.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Assuming it's available that morning.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'm hearing that if everyone's okay with the idea of having it in person once it falls to spring, and then I will see about using hospital facilities as well as KT facilities to host those 2 days, besides us having the in-person one next year in April at Jamestown as well. All right, sounds good. Exciting, guys. Great. All right, so Ed, you have some items.
Yeah, I've got 3 items, so I'm going to try to go through these nice and slow. So I tend to talk fast, and my apologies. Then you get a word salad, and it's like, what is he saying? So we received notification. It was earlier this month, actually on the 9th, from the WSDOT State Freight Planning Office that they're going to be updating their state freight investment plan later this year. And they're asking the RTPOs, the member organizations, to provide an update to their designated critical freight corridors in both urban and rural areas. There's a webinar next Tuesday, the 16th at 9 a.m. So I just want to let you folks know that. I've sent this information to the TAC just recently if they want to attend. I will be attending. And this is valuable to the PRTPO because occasionally there are dollars available to update the roads on the, problematic intersections, bridges, that kind of thing that are on these designated freight corridors. And so by being in the freight investment plan, that helps kind of tee up your jurisdiction to apply for grants, that kind of thing, to get some of these problems fixed. So I just want to give you an update on that. So more to follow, I think, as this comes along. Washington's really making a pretty aggressive push to update their freight planning to try to help the economic conditions here. So that was number one.
Excuse me, Ed, did you say
Hi.
that was FMSIP or was it WashDOT?
WashDOT.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next one, also from WashDOT, is the statewide multimodal transportation plan. There's an update being developed, and there's a poll out there for basically a meeting for RTPO members sometime between June 22nd and July 22nd. And it would be great to have one of our board members present they're looking for what our priorities are from a transportation perspective in our region. And so I can put the link to the webinar, I guess it's a webinar meeting, I'm not sure the difference, in the chat. So if y'all want to attend, feel free to, it's a poll right now. They haven't set the date. So hopefully that link works for you in the chat. I plan on attending and kind of having a copy of that legislative outlook that y'all developed in my hand. That's what I see as our priorities. But of course, if you have other priorities that aren't on the latest legislative handout, please let me know if you want me to speak up on behalf of the PRTPO and try to get into this plan. Like the previous item I just talked about, having little blurpets or statements and plans really helps when it's time to develop tips and in the project development process. Kind of gives you an extra leg up over maybe a jurisdiction that's sort of in panic mode. And maybe we can get more dollars flowing into the region. So that was the second one.
Ed, I have a question about that particular meeting. Is there a limit on the number of our RTPO members that can attend, or is it open to everyone?
Yeah, there isn't a limit right now. What I would recommend is that maybe, at the board that you designate one or two people, or one from each county, that kind of thing. But yeah, there's no limit that was mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if the other RTPOs, and this includes MPOs as well, I wouldn't be surprised if there are very few elected officials that attend this meeting. But I think especially in our region, it's really helpful because it's a big region geographically, what the needs are in your community better than I do. So I'm multitasking, here. So I try to know as much as I can, but I'm running out of memory space. So
well, thank you for at least bringing the legislative list and taking that to be our voice as part of that group, just in case nobody else is able to attend.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no questions on those two items, I have one more.
I have a question. The multimodal plan, is that different than the public transportation plan?
Yes, it is, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Multimodal. So this includes your roads and non-motorized, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, and then the third item, when we met with WashDOT Tribal and Regional Planning to go over the UPWP update back in March, they were concerned about how last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, we began the process of incorporating the RTIP into the RTP each year. They were not comfortable with that. And it was a process where basically we have the RTP that we have now, and then sort of we added an attachment of specific projects out of the RTIP into the RTP. And it was a bit of a laborious effort here by the staff to kind of get that project list going together between the TAC and then also briefing you at the board. So they would like to keep those kind of separated in the future. The RTIP continues to stand alone as it does, or it did in the past, and the RTP is really the guiding document. And as staff, we make sure that the projects in the RTIP are consistent with the policies and goals in the RTP. So that's something that as staff, we're more than happy to follow the recommendation of tribal and regional planning, unless you feel otherwise, if you felt that that effort was valuable at including specific projects in the RTP. So I'm kind of asking for your opinion on this. You don't have to rush. We don't have to find out today, but something to think about over the next couple months as we get the RTIP going for this upcoming year. That's all I have. Questions?
Ed, I have a question about that. So is there any, I always think about the grant funding. You've talked about that on several of these planning documents. It's always important to be part of the planning document and the processes in order to go after the grant funding later. Is there any grant fund that you can think of that would require a project be listed in the RTP? Or is it more of a general be in alignment with the goals that are in the RTP?
One just has to align with the goals.
Okay.
So for instance, when I'm doing my job at Kitsap Transit, we'll have grant applications, right, that we develop. And one of the things that I look at are the comprehensive plans in the member jurisdictions. And I try to make sure that our projects, I go through each goal or each policy and then each goal and say, oh, this project ties with this goal or this policy. And, I can get a whole list, right? And then I put it into my grant app and move forward. I don't feel that the project necessarily has to be mentioned in there in the RTP unless it's some big, the Hood Canal Bridge is kind of a different example, right? Because that's a big, we know that at some point that'll need replacement. That's a big concept project, right? There's nothing in the STIP for a new bridge yet or in the RTIP for a new bridge yet, but it is in the RTP. So it depends on kind of the flavor of the project, but for a local road rebuild, mill and overlay, that kind of thing, we don't really need that in the RTP because that mill and overlay will meet the goals of maintaining a state of good repair that's outlined in the RTP. So I don't really see the need to put them together from a professional perspective. So that's
I
my
agree.
2 cents.
But it is, you're right. Those larger, long-term projects that are of true regional significance, that makes sense. But I think if that's one less task that you guys have to do, and that was at the direction of DOT, I'm part of not including all of those projects in the RTP going forward.
Any other comments? That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Anna and Edward. Okay, moving on to our public comment period. It's an opportunity for any member of the public to address the executive board. If there's anyone in person or anyone online, you can raise your virtual hand. You can let us know in some way that you would like to provide a public comment.
There's no one in person, at least.
Okay. Anyone online that would like to provide public comment? Any member of the public? Okay. We will move on. PRTPO member updates. Any information that anyone would like to share about what's going on in your jurisdiction around transportation or transportation planning?
Could we get a mini FIFA update from our Kitsap
Oh yeah,
friends?
Great idea. How is the World Cup?
I can give an update, or Vamna, if you want to give an update. I just sat through the training. We're both going to be ambassadors down here at the ferry dock. Mine's next week. I don't know when Amna's volunteering, but we are providing quite a bit of extra service late into the evening, both ferry and routed buses. So yeah, we're just sort of waiting to see what flocks show up.
What day is the first big match?
I want to say it's Monday, right?
The first match was for the entire tournament was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. They had several yesterday. Today will be US versus Uruguay, if I'm not mistaken. There has been a lot of energy and excitement around it, in my opinion. For instance, there is a viewing location barge in Seattle that had lines so long that people couldn't actually use their tickets to actually see the match at the location. So I believe that there's a lot of local excitement, at least if there's not a lot of tourist excitement around these games. I'm the first fan zone viewing for here in Kitsap at Bremerton fan zone will be tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, today. Sorry, today is Friday. It's supposed to be very exciting, so a lot of us are excited about that. So I'm thinking it's gonna kick off today in like in celebrations and excitement because US is playing today, and then we'll see how it goes as of next week when we have actual matches in Seattle. That will be the 15th and the 19th. We'll have games here, then the 24th, 26th. Then I believe it's the 2nd and then the 6th of July. So I believe that there's a lot of changes in down to Seattle. So if you are going downtown or anywhere near that area, just be prepared for a big change there. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got the schedule up for the Seattle matchups. And so on those days, Kitsap Transit those are the days that Kitsap Transit is providing extra service. It's been a big effort by staff and leadership here to make this happen. So I'm hoping the fans will appreciate it and the public in general.
I have to say, I have to give a big shout out to Kitsap Transit. You guys have been working very hard to make sure that the infrastructure is in place, the waypoints are in place, and I saw those yesterday and they looked really good. So great job to you and your team, and and Director Clausen. Thank you for all the support you've been doing for the Kitsap region here, and really the whole region essentially, because we are the main conduit into the rest of the peninsula. So great job, guys.
Here.
And I am curious about if you're going to see a ridership uptick on the Kalalam 123 straight shot or on Jefferson Transit services to Kingston and Paulsbo. That's something that, like a report out would be pretty neat to see if you did see an uptick on those services, because they are the gateway to the Olympic Mountains and to Victoria and Port Townsend, all those beautiful places. So
yeah, great.
And I was going to say that so far, I haven't seen any uptick in the price of Airbnbs in the county or the city. So I'm kind of like, is it just waiting to pounce? But I was really surprised, and we should also thank WashDOT for subsidizing additional line to Indigenous lines. And I don't know if Joe's still on the line, if he knows any of the backstory of how that came to be. But we have MTR, who's the operator for the Indigenous lines. They went ahead and created an express route from Port Angeles to SeaTac Airport. And I guess it's going to operate during the summer.
Nice.
Let me, if I may, add a couple things. I don't know, can you see? I shared my screen. I don't know if you can see
we can see it.
We see some cool new wayfinding, it looks like, that you added.
Yeah, this is some stuff that we've installed. This is just here at the Permanent Transportation Center. There's another example, and we also put in these electronic wayfinding signs that are ADA accessible, so people can walk up, and if they're visually impaired, they can get the information audibly. So these are something else. We've also equipped a couple others of our transit centers with this type of wayfinding information. So thank you, Commissioner, for your compliments. The team has been working rather hard on pulling this off. And as Ed mentioned, we've got a lot of our staff that will be ambassadors. We're focusing most of our efforts at the Bremerton Ferry Terminal primarily because we've been focusing on getting people from the matches to various lodging facilities throughout our county, which is mostly in the Bremen and Central Kitsap area. So that's where a lot of our attention has been focused. But we'll have ambassadors on the transit deck for each of these games to help people. I usually refer to it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can find a bus or find a hotel or find a fan zone or find a ferry, one of the three.
Yeah, well, I made this point at our in-person meeting, but I think we are way ahead of some other national regions that have had these large-scale World Cup events as far as our planning efforts. And so a real appreciation to all the organizations that have been involved in that are doing that on the ground work. I think we're showing showing folks that the Puget Sound has some good public transit agencies that are serving the public very well.
And as you can see by the commissioner and by Edward, we're prepared to help folks identify who can assist.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other PRTPO member updates? Appreciate the World Cup update. I don't know, you got a lot of work over this next month ahead of you for that.
I have a random question. This might be very weird, but for item 2 for UPWP, who seconded that motion? My handwriting is not trackable.
I believe it was Navarra.
Okay, thank you.
And you can always put me down as a second if you accidentally forget.
I was a second on something too, so same goes.
We can compare notes, Amna.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's no other updates, everyone, thank you for a meeting. We'll let you go a little bit early. Good discussions. Appreciate everyone's attention and participation. So with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 11:40. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
to see everybody.
Hang on for a second, Amna.